Hey, everybody, welcome
Recording in
to
progress.
episode, I know
Recording
it,
in
this is episode 168 of Circle and Get Real, right?
168?
168.
I got up this morning and I said, I want to be episode number 168. And I had no idea that dream would come true
Oh,
for
quit
me.
it.
Yeah, I'm lying.
Yeah, you are. This is Randy Jones, everybody. Can I call you Randy Jones instead of Randall Kenneth Jones?
You can call me Randy. Yes, you can. You can even skip the Jones and just go with Randy.
This is Randy, everybody. And Randy is a brand new friend of mine. I was put in touch with Randy because Brad Zollis, who was on the show a couple of episodes ago, and I have been friends for a long time. And Brad said, Jody, you need to meet Randy. And
I
so
love
Randy
my
and
Brad.
I know, I love my Brad too, right?
Love my Brad. Yep,
And that's what is so cool about connecting with people. I don't know as much about you, Randy, as I might, because I just met you last week, but I know enough, I think, to have a
I'm an open book.
I know, and I love that about you. So we're going to just chat today. This is Randy Jones, who has a podcast called Jonesing for Good. I love that so much.
I'm going to correct it just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's actually called Jones.Show.
Okay.
Because that's a URL as well. Jones.show is the URL. Jones.show. And then the subhead, because I am jonesing for good.
I gotcha. I see it because now that I scroll up on my screen, I only saw the tagline on my screen. So I'm like, oh, it's Jones.show, everybody.
It's Jones.show, jonesing for good.
So when you're looking
but you know what, Jody, seriously, we both are jonesing for good.
Yeah.
There's a reason. I mean, that's true. My podcast is about looking for the best in people, trying to be inspired, trying to see what you can offer me in a positive way, not in a negative way, and talking to different people who do different things, who don't live in a niche. I'm just tired of living in a niche. I don't want to live in a niche. I want to explore the world and the people of the world. And so jonesing for good is really so accurate insofar as how I feel and what really propels that podcast forward, really all my work.
I love it. I love it. So the subhead, Jonesing for Good, I love that so much. And in your bio about the show, it says the Jones.Show is the brainchild of author and speaker. We're going to hear more about that. Randall Kenneth Jones, and the original voice of Siri, Susan C. Bennett.
Siri's my bud. I mean, how many people can say that? Susan C. Bennett was the original voice of Siri when Siri was introduced, I believe, in 2011. She is classic Siri. You can hear it in her voice. If you hear one of the podcasts, you'll go, that sounds like the classic Siri. She's still the Siri everybody hears in their head, even though they've replaced her and all the different voices are different. Yeah. She did not know when that was released that she was Siri either.
What?
That was a complete and total surprise. We need to have her on your show. Susan Bennett needs to do your show. She's the best.
I would love that. So Randy and I, as you can tell here, are passionate about conversations. You know, the kind of tagline for my show is having conversations that matter with people who matter. And that's what we're up to here. Randy's show includes real people with surreal insight and will feature Randy's signature blend of personal and professional development, real world advice, and whimsical anecdotes.
Whimsical anecdotes.
I love that. Whimsical anecdotes. I love that.
I like the word whimsical. Whimsical is fun. Yeah, whimsical. It's true. Everything's got a story. Everything's got a story. So
Randy, how did you get here? I don't know how far back you want to go, but I'd love to know who.
I was born in Columbia, Missouri in 1962. How's that? We could start there.
And that's a great place to be born.
And very long body.
No, I know. Well, we don't have to get all that detail. But professional development. Okay, so tell me about that. How did that come to be what you are up to?
I guess if you really look, okay, let me try to give you the time period of the last 10-ish years that I think will make most sense. And no, I'm not going to go through every day, but I moved from the DC metro area. I was born in Missouri, moved from the DC metro area after 25 years to Naples, Florida. When I arrived in Naples, Florida, a very wealthy, affluent community, I had the opportunity to meet these ridiculously successful people who lived here. But then I quickly realized that those wealthy, successful people were, spending $1,000 a plate for these high-end events. And I'm going to IHOP, disconnect. How am I going to meet them in IHOP? So I kind of cracked the code. I went to the newspaper And I said, there's all these successful people here. I'm a writer. Is anybody writing about their success? They said, no. Do you want to do it? I said, yes. And I don't want your money because I want to release a book and I wanted to own the content. And the book actually that came out is called, and I had it in front of me. I'm going to go here. Show me celebrities, business tycoons, rock stars, journalists, humanitarians, attack bunnies, and more. I have it underneath my computer holding it up. And it's a compilation, that first book, of all of those different people. What was stunning to me is who said yes. What is stunning to me is who agreed to talk to me. There's a couple women in particular that are so special and so profoundly special in my career and my life and my jonesing for good. Peggy Post, who was the former director of the Emily Post Institute. The Emily Post's etiquette book was 100 years old in 2022. The entire Post family is very special to me. What Emily Post stands for as far as courtesy and respect and civility is very important to me. And the other person that I met who has just become such a huge backbone, she propels me forward. She keeps me going, that I met doing the first series of books, who is on my podcast every year, is Erin Brockovich.
That's a pretty big name.
Pretty
big
people have heard of her. Yeah. What an extraordinary woman. Her fingerprints are all over my back whenever I doubt myself. She will not tolerate that. She's extraordinary. And that's what happened. So I wrote the column. Then I came out with the first book and I missed it because these conversations, as you know, are a drug.
Yes,
they're a drug.
They are.
And once you start to listen, and once you start to learn, and once you make the decision that I'm going to try to live in a positive headspace, I'm not saying it's easy to do. I'm not saying it is easy, because I can get judgmental just like the next person. I can judge people around me. I can have a knee-jerk reaction, whatever. But once you decide you want to live that way, it is a drug that you do want to continue. And so that's actually what led to the podcast, Jones.Show, the podcast, because I missed it. But when we talk about professional development, I live a life that is a blend of personal development and professional development, because I live one life. I live one life. There's not really a Randy at home and a Randy at work. There's just the one guy, and I'm always on. I'm always working, and I'm living in the moment. I'm attentive. I pay attention. You never know. The next mentor you get can be standing next to you in line at Walgreens. You do not know who it's going to be. And, I really want to talk to people who will help all of us live a better life, a more responsible life, a more fulfilling life, a happier life, a more meaningful life, at home and at work.
That's so good.
So many of us really work at home now. I've been, working from a home office for a decade. So when we say there is no line. Home and work's the same place. And, so that's really kind of that story. I'm ridiculously lucky, insanely lucky, 300 some odd interviews later. Insanely lucky to have the people that I have. But one thing I didn't want to have happen, I've talked to a lot of people, celebrities that are famous in different aspects. They're famous in different things. And but I don't ever I always want my podcast to have a space for the up and comer like myself, who has an extraordinary story and deserves to be heard from. I don't ever want to be so focused on the famous name that I don't pay attention to the person who deserves to be heard.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm going to just jump in for a second then and mention some of the famous people, because it's pretty impressive. We got Dog the Bounty Hunter. We got Loretta Switch.
Who I call Puppy. I got permission.
Yes,
I call him Puppy. Yeah, I do.
You know him well. You can call him Puppy.
I don't know him that well, but I found out he was called Puppy when he was younger. And I said, I think I need to do that. And he said, you can. I would not have done it because he would take me. I mean, there's no way. He would. I'm actually much taller than him, but I still, he could take me in a fight. So,
did you meet him in person?
Yeah, I did.
Ah,
He lives by
oh,
me. He lives close to me.
he
Yeah.
lives on- Wow.
Yeah. He's great.
Okay. So Dog the Bounty Hunter, Loretta Swit.
Oh my God. 85 years old.
Yeah.
Oh, let
From
me tell you,
Smash,
if you were
guys.
80
You know.
something or 90 something, you're my person. There's nothing I love more than my 80 somethings and my 90 somethings. Norman Lear also did my show
Yeah. Oh my
when he
God.
was a mere 97 and he's almost 101 and he's magic. Loretta Swit, 85 years old from Magic. Because there's so much more to these people than that one show or entertainment. Loretta Swit is all about taking care of animals and art. She's an artist and she's passionate about taking care of animals. And that's the story that I want to tell.
Yeah. Well, I think
that's what's in her heart.
Yeah, because we kind of know the external persona that they have put off in the movies and whatever they've done. But I love that you're getting into the real person. Of course, my podcast is Circle Up and Get Real. So it's about being real. And I love that. But I want to continue here. We've got Dee Wallace, the mom from E.T.
Just fascinating. I can't even just so cerebral. So cerebral. So much more than meets the eye. And you know what? Go to Jones.Show and listen to that podcast. I'm not going to say anything else.
Okay.
I'm just going to say.
So that's a setup. Everybody needs to go do that. How about Nellie Olson?
Hysterical.
Really?
Allison Arngrim from Little House on the Prairie.
Yep.
Ridiculously funny. Ridiculously accepting of her life as the prairie bitch. She's made a whole career out of being really Nellie Olson for life. She embraces it. She's so funny and she's such a good person.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm looking at Stephanie Powers from Heart to Heart.
Okay, Stephanie Powers. I'm not sure I would have interviewed her. I was introduced to her had I realized how ridiculously smart she was. Like she speaks like 5 languages.
Wow.
No, it's crazy. She's so well read. I mean, she can really, there's no topic that I can address that she's not going to know more about it than I'm going to know. And then her ex-partner, her deceased partner, William Holden, the William Holden Wildlife Preserve, I believe it is. I'm not going to say that exactly right, but her support of wildlife in Africa, she just turned 80 and she's beautiful and she's articulate and she's smart. And right now, she is by a fair mile, the most downloaded show from season 5 of the podcast.
Wow.
People love her.
Okay.
They love her. And she's so much more than Jennifer Hart. So much more. Yeah. I think I'm glad I didn't know how smart she was. I think I would have been really intimidated. How you feel talking to me because I'm so smart.
I know, right?
Oh,
I know.
Yeah. I mean,
I know that's exactly how I feel.
So you know exactly how it feels.
I do. So I want to just talk about one more and then we're going to get back into you. But tell me about Melissa Rivers. Joan Rivers' daughter.
Okay. So introduced to her. The cool thing about Melissa is I was so aware that she was famous Melissa Rivers for about 10 minutes. And that just completely went away. We just had this really great, true conversation. It's the best conversation I've ever had on parenting in 300 interviews. On parenting. Now, our kids took some hits too. Now, we both have adult children, so we took some hits too. Joan took some hits in a funny way. Joan Rivers is the single most quoted person on the Jones.Show podcast.
Oh, really?
She, from people who don't know each other, I had shared that with Melissa, is something person A, B, C, or D learned from Joan Rivers and her career or personally from them. They've mentioned her 4 or 5 times. She just pops up all over the place. That's very special. Yeah. That's a very special legacy to leave behind, that you're really so smart. And as Erin Brockovich says, our word is stick-to-itiveness. That's mine and Erin's word, stick-to-itiveness. And Joan had that. Oh, Melissa, it was just incredible because what happens any conversation, if you allow it, can go someplace you don't expect it to go. So if I'm going to have a conversation, which I'm going to have her on again soon with Pat Benetar, who's been on the show before, Pat My Heart.
Wow.
Do I talk about music? Will I talk about Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Of course I do, because her fan base wants that. But I'm telling you right now, it's Grandma Pat that's going to show up. She's got 3 grandkids. I mean, she's really, they want to talk about their passions. And so often want to talk about their passions that lie outside of what we know them for. And that's something your listener can learn from.
Yeah.
Don't assume you know what someone wants to talk about. Give them the opportunity to share their passions, what they truly believe in, what's important to them, what they want. Because just because someone's known for something, that doesn't define them. It really doesn't define them.
I love that, because what they do is really evident because it's on the outside, what they do, but who they are at their being level, it doesn't always get noticed, I bet, because it's overshadowed by what they do and what they're known for.
Pat Benetar is Patricia Giraldo. She married her musical partner, Neil Giraldo, 41 years ago. She's Patricia Giraldo. She, and I'm to the point where Pat Benetar is a person I just heard her on stage. And she's a person who sings, who's phenomenal. And then Patricia Giraldo is my friend who I talk to. I will tell you quickly the special story, because I think you'll love this story. What's so special about her? I love her so much. And when I say I love her, I mean, this is real. This is in 1982. I was in Columbia, Missouri in college. I was doing singing telegrams for money. I was a singing chicken and a singing bunny and running around town in my Ford Pinto. That alone, the image is great so far. You got a Ford Pinto and a bunny with balloons and running around town. Pat Benetar came to town. I wanted to meet her. I sent her a singing telegram and it worked.
Wow. You've known her that long?
Yes, 1982. Go backstage at the concert, 6 dozen balloons, rewrite new lyrics, sing to her, hit me with your best shot. That woman changed my life.
Wow.
Because I'm 20 and she treated me with such respect. I said, will you sign my copy of the telegram? She said, I will if you sign mine.
Oh.
She was so kind. She was so open. They took the camera away, which is the norm. I said, well, I was dressed as Prince Charming in my purple brocade. And I said, if Prince Charming doesn't have a picture, nobody in the kingdom is going to believe that Prince Charming was here. The camera comes back. I have this beautiful photo of us. 33 years later, I got an interview with her.
Wow.
And I said, did they remind you of our backstory? And she said, no. Do we have a backstory? And I took the telegram that she signed in the picture from that event, slid it across the table. Pat Benetar said to me, I don't just remember the telegram, I remember you.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I know. So if I'm a little, I really love her that much because Pat Benetar changed my life.
Yeah.
And guess what? You don't have to be famous and you don't have to be Pat Benetar to say the right thing to change someone's life.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about Facebook, and please, I'm going to get on my soapbox right now, is the opportunity we have, and this is one of my pillars, if you will, to tell people who meant something to us that they meant something to us. It's too easy to find people, Facebook, whatever, a teacher, a mentor, a guide, a coach. It's so easy to find them. And if they've passed away, find their relative, find their child, their spouse, their widow, their widower, and let them know what that person meant to you and thank them and say, you changed my life and this is how you did it. Because chances are they don't know. Chances are they don't know. And I've told so many people, for example, who were in college with me when I was a freshman, who were, seniors and, things like that, who were part of the same groups I was in, how much they meant to me. They didn't know. Just being accepted by them. There's such an opportunity to let the people in your life know what they meant to you. I beg you to find those teachers and those mentors and those guides, because they're not all Pat Benetars.
Yeah, that's.
But she's really special to me. She is my heart.
So you met her in person. It sounds like you slid it across the table. You were in person with her having the conversation.
I was in person 33 years after I bounced her up and down on my knee. Yeah.
That's so great.
As Prince Charming. Yep. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
So when you do your interviews for your podcast, are they in person?
It's great. It's preferable, too. I mean, we would prefer right now, I prefer we're in the same room.
Yeah.
Because the connection face to face, and one of the things I believe we probably both stand for is face to face communication. I'm happy right now. I can see you.
Mhm.
I want to be able to see you. This is a better conversation because I can see your face.
Yeah. We're doing this on Zoom, by the way.
Yeah. So it's a better conversation because I can see you and we can see each other. And we can react and laugh and stuff like that. Nothing should ever replace that. I get very worried about that. I have issues with texting with my children who are in their 30s. And once I've hit a text, I've texted, once I've done the third one, I'm picking up the phone because we are done. We are done. How much time do you think my fingers are willing to work for you? Yeah, they're willing to do 3 of them for you. And then we're getting on the phone. And then, as Melissa Rivers and I discussed, then the kids don't answer the phone. And we're like, you're right there. You're texting me. Why aren't you answering the phone? And then there's always some excuse why they can't answer the phone.
Yeah.
But I am such an advocate, as are you, for
Mhm.
conversation, for communication, for listening. I'm so fearful of technology replacing way too much of the reality, the emotion that comes with that. Cute story, as you and I are the same age.
Yes.
And so you recall the time before we had the smartphones and the internet. You recall the 2 and 3 hour phone call.
I do.
Remember
With the cord,
yeah,
the corded phone.
the corded phone. And if you've got a friend on the phone, you could be on the phone with them 2 or 3 hours.
Mhm.
That's me and Erin Brockovich.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah. We're both old school phone. We can do an hour without batting an eye, but we've done 3-hour phone calls.
Even
We're
now?
old school. Yeah.
Even now?
Even now. Yeah.
Wow.
We're
Wow.
old school phone. I'm old school phone.
So I have a question. As we get back to you, how did you get to the place where people with these famous people were actually picking up the phone and answering?
Well, not necessarily. Okay. She and I are friends now. And we're talking about love. I love her.
Yeah.
And no, it's real. I really truly love her as my friend, as someone who is there for me, as someone who supports me. She's very, very, very special to me. When I wanted to do this and I began the column, really the catalyst was a guy, and I love him. And I think Phil just turned 90, a gentleman named Phil Buth, who has been on my podcast, who was the executive in charge of Good Morning America in the 80s, knew everyone. And met him and I was going to write a column on him. And so I thought, let's talk to people who know him and get some feedback. So I'm sitting at home and I had reached out to some famous people he knew, and I answered the phone and I hear, Randy, Regis Philbin here. Huh. Nothing can prepare you for hearing the words Regis Philbin here.
Regis Philbin. Yes, I can just hear him. Oh.
And I was so stunned for 2 reasons. Is that he was calling me. He was having so much fun talking about his friend. So he gave so much extra character and love and passion and compassion and humor to that article. But Regis Philbin, what I learned from him, because I learned something from all of them. Mm-hmm. I learned something from all of them. Regis Philbin treated that 15-minute phone call as if that was the most important thing he had to do that day. Mm-hmm. It was not.
Yeah.
But I believed it. I did not feel rushed. I did not feel like he was bored. He was completely engaged in that conversation like it was the most important thing he had to do. There was another gentleman that I interviewed pretty quickly that I happened to meet named Jack McKinney. I had known him through an arts organization, did not realize he was Magic Johnson's first professional basketball coach at the Los Angeles Lakers.
Oh, wow.
Now, what I said, this is what I'm saying. You don't know who you're going to meet at Walgreens.
Right.
Jack McKinney. There's a TV show that the one on the Lakers, it's either on Showtime or HBO. He's literally a character. He's portrayed as a character, Jack McKinney. What a wonderful man. And I interviewed him, and sure enough, Bill Walton calls me back and Magic Johnson calls me back.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So here I am talking to, there was a time in the 70s I was tall. Well, I'm still tall. Where I thought that I would play basketball, and Bill Walton was my hero, and he's on the phone. Oh yeah, I'm dying. I'm just dying every single time it happened. But it started from connections that, and I'll be candid, it sounds like we're name dropping. Well, we are, because within 2 months of doing this column, I was able to name drop. And I was able to say, I know Bill Walton. I've spoken with Regis. I was able to talk about people I had already connected to who were really well known. And then that continues to open more doors.
Yeah, I see that. Well, and I think the fact that you know how to maintain a relationship with someone over the years, because you're so genuine. And again, I've just met you last week. I trusted Brad, who we both love. And
well, considering he's really a chronic liar, that was kind of good for you to do that. I mean, are we on? Oh,
did you say that out loud? Oh my
God. Did I use my outside voice?
But part of that, I think, is the connection and the trust and the opportunity we all have to expand our own networks through the people we trust and know. I've met Brad in person. I've not met you in person, but I feel like I know you in person because I know Brad. And so the trust in going beyond the surface is crucial to getting into that space of expansion, expanded thinking, expanded living.
Trust is everything. And the things people have said to me by accident. And when somebody says something to me by accident, you know what happens? I cut it. I don't put something out there that I know someone shouldn't put out there. I had someone disclose something that happened to them. Their handler got on the phone demanding that I not use it. And I said, well, A, you don't have to demand, because B, I would never share that information. I've had the entire cast of the TV show Hot Bench. I love that show. Love those judges on the show. And I've said to all of them, I'm not looking for the smoking gun. If we find a smoking gun, I'll help you hide it. I'm not interested. I will tell people I don't need the answer to this, that, or whatever. I will tell them, I don't need the answer. If you don't want to talk about it, don't talk about it. And as soon as you say, don't talk about it, they talk about it and they tell you.
Yeah.
And I think what it is, and I keep trying to think, what is your listener going to get out of this? If I don't come across as sincere, then I'm failing your listener, because I love them. I love that opportunity. I love meeting new people. I am profoundly grateful that these people are willing to talk to me. And I think I ooze that.
You do
in
ooze
the
that
interview.
Well, you ooze that here. And I love that you're using the word love as you're talking about this.
Because it's the accurate word. And I thought about, do I want to use that word? But I love it. And I do, now sometimes, people really respond like we're going to be BFFs, and I will, I take it, and I'll follow up. And sometimes they didn't really mean it.
Yeah.
Were they being bad at the time? No, they just were more in the moment and then realized, I don't really have time for another friend. I don't have time for this. And that's okay. There are times when I've realized that this person, they mean more to me than I mean to them. Even though I even thought a budding friendship, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. As long as they've meant something to me and I can respect them for that.
Yeah.
People get to make those decisions.
Well, I think it's so rare in the world that people are willing to put their hearts out there. We've been hurt. A lot of us have been hurt. We've had things happen in our lives where the way we've been conditioned and programmed is to be closed in some cases. We don't want to have that happen again. And so we show up in a way that we think we should be, and we end up shoulding all over ourselves and everyone else. And in that space, it becomes very restrictive instead of open. And so I get it. I get why we've done that. I get in some cases.
Let's go back to Brad. I mean, I think this is something that really fits your show. And let's talk about this. If Brad Zala says you need to meet A, B, C, D, or E, that's gospel. That means he says you need to meet Jody. I mean, I'm obviously made fun of my friend. If he says I need to meet Jody, I need to meet Jody, period. End of discussion. And I think we all have those people in our lives that we can trust to guide us to making the right decisions. And when this person says to me, you should do A, B, C, D, or E, chances are we do those things.
Right. Well, and even if, let's say for some weird reason, it didn't work out, or Brad said something and it didn't work out, I learned something in the process, because I really believe you either win or you learn. And so in that process of becoming open, I'm not going to start a conversation, in fact, with you on the surface, because of what I know about Brad. Right. So small talk, it's great when you need to start somewhere, but we pretty much jumped in the first time we met last week.
Right away. Because Brad, basically, if Brad says do, I say, okay.
Yeah.
And if he says you're going to love Jody, I said, I'm going to love Jody. I do kind of, I will say, I kind of go into all of these relationships assuming the love.
Yeah, I love
assuming that. I really am. And that's something everyone can do. I don't have a patent on this, nor do you. We are doing this and we're recorded and we put it out into the world. But you know what? Every single person listening can do what we do.
Right.
They can have the conversation. They can focus on listening. They can focus on looking for the best in people. They can focus on being real. Not easy. I'm not saying this is easy. I'm not saying it's easy. And it doesn't mean you're going to talk to a famous person. You don't have to. Because when you listen to my podcast and it's audio only, and let's say you tune in the middle of it, you don't know, you say, oh, this person's great. This person's great. This person's so interesting. Wow, listen to this person. You don't even know who that person is. Maybe that person's Erin Brockovich, and maybe that person is Sue Smith. You don't know, because all you have is the voice.
Sure. That's
so you don't have to be famous to be fascinating. You really, really don't. Right. And we all have the opportunity to meet so many people, have so much to offer us, especially us dog people, man. If you're a dog person, man, Alexander and I meet everybody. So yeah,
that's funny. And
we have lots of dog chats, with dog people.
Song about your dog. I don't know if you can say that here. I don't have a bleeper, but you could sing your Alexander song.
Little asshole, Alexander's a little asshole. Yeah, that's the Alexander song. Okay, let me explain. My dog who is pictured on my second book, Ruby. My dog is literally pictured. Aww. He is my author shot on Ruby, my book Ruby.
And you have like a Santa hat and reindeer ears.
And the dog has reindeer ears on, and I have a Santa hat on, because it's a holiday book that you don't have to read during the holidays at all. But I told the photographer, I said, you do realize this is a cute picture of a dog that a man happens to be in, right? And they were like, yeah, we get it. Alexander is an Airedale. And if anybody has an Airedale terrorist dog, they will understand why I sing the little asshole song.
Oh, that's funny.
He owns me. I am his pet.
Yeah.
And I can't complain, because he's my third Airedale. So it's not even my first time at this rodeo. My husband and I know what we're doing. We know that we're bringing in a creature that will, in fact, take control of our lives and will not care of our needs or desires or anything, that's going to demand that they're the king. And we just repeatedly go, please come in.
But he's been rewarded by being on your book cover, so it's not even really.
He's worse than that. He has an international fan base. I do videos to promote my book and the Jones.Show podcast, and the dog is in the videos. I'm doing improv with the dog.
That's so great.
Do you think anybody's really listening to me? No, they're looking at the dog. Because you never know what the dog's into. Alexander is a rock star. He is just a rock star, and yeah,
you do what you gotta do, Randy.
Yeah, he is a challenge. He is a challenge.
So I want to back up a bit here. How long has your podcast been alive?
We're ending the fifth season.
So 5 years of doing this. And then before that, you were are you still doing the column as well?
I didn't. I did the column from 2012 to 2016. Show Me, the first book, which was a compilation of the columns, came out. And I have to say, even though it's from 2016, I wrote it so it wouldn't become dated. I wrote an evergreen book, because I feel the lessons that I learn from anybody that I put forth, either in writing or on the podcast, they still apply.
Okay. Great.
And then within about a year, I was missing it. Like I said, I missed the drug, and I launched the podcast. And when you have Siri as your BFF and you got Siri in your back pocket, then you launch with your Siri.
That's awesome.
And So yeah, so she has worked with me on this as the announcer for 100 and I think it's 170, 180 shows,
Wow.
something like that. And how can I stop?
Yeah.
It's
You can't.
so fascinating.
Yeah. It's a drug. You can't.
You can't. It's a drug. It's a drug. It's really a drug.
So let's go back to before the column, before Florida. You talked about Missouri. I know, right? You don't
Nobody
have
does
to.
that.
You don't have to,
I'll
but
do it. I'll do whatever you want.
well, I just want to know how you got there and who is Randy really? Who has Randy always been? Have you had the opportunity to be yourself your whole life? Have you been real, or has there been a journey that's allowed you to?
Wow, Jody, you are going there. Wow. Okay. No. I'm there. I'm with you. I am very blessed that I married my high school sweetheart from Missouri. I have 2 kids who are now 32 and 34. That marriage did not work.
Okay.
I will never share details. It was not a dramatic breakup. She's very, very special to me, incredibly special. One of my favorite people in the world. People assume they know what happened, but since she's not here to tell her side, I will never talk about it. It's just not worth it.
Yep.
I will share that after that. So you talk about being real. My next relationship has lasted 27 years, and that is my husband, Derek. However, wow, no one's ever asked me this. This is a big win. You know, when someone gets you the one where no one's ever asked you this, no one's ever asked me this, but I will absolutely say, and I tell my children, the relationship I had with their mother was real. I really loved her. I really wanted to be with her. And I'm really great we had these 2 children. I did not want them to believe what so many people were going to tell them. Your dad was always gay, therefore your parents' relationship was a fraud. It absolutely 100% was not. My relationship with her to this day is special. Her parents are 2 of the most extraordinary people I have ever met in my entire life. Every time I'm back in Columbia, Missouri speaking, her parents are right there cheering me on. That's awesome. As is she. And then having the opportunity to look at really who am I? Let's really evaluate this. I realized that the relationship with Derek suited what I really was and really needed. And that was 27 years ago. Wow. And that's like 160 in straight years. So that's a really long relationship. And he, in fact, is, funny. I got really lucky because I got the hot guy who's the funny guy. I got a ridiculously hot guy who's stupid funny. And if I had to choose, I would always pick the funny guy, but I got both.
Wow.
I got both.
I think he got pretty lucky too.
To co-parent these dogs with me. It's
dogs, yeah. I think he
got
pretty lucky too.
No one's ever asked me about that.
Hear me when I say this, because I'm trying to tell you that he got lucky too.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
So in that journey, I mean, that's a really cool journey, and that's a really cool thing to recognize and to be able to own. And like you said, I'm going to make an assumption here. Everybody's doing the best they can with what they know. That's the way I look at the world.
But is everybody doing the best they can with what they know? I don't think you and I would be in business if that were true.
Yeah, I know, but I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt because I said with what they know. And I think
with what they're willing to acknowledge.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Yeah.
With what they're willing to, and I'm not trying to be negative.
No,
but if I can springboard a little bit off this, because you're going in a cool place. Please. A lot of people I feel are afraid to embrace the real, when in fact, to me, it's the coolest thing ever to embrace the real. I started my process when I wrote my first book, which never got published. It was my life story when I was in my mid-40s, and it never got published, but that was kind of me starting to really dig deep. The whole process of writing that, I mean, that was very funny. I wrote a lot of funny stories, made me learn about me and understanding me and how I fit in the world. Then, so really the journey was there into the column, into book 1, into the podcast, into book 2, which is the fiction book, Ruby. I cannot begin to tell people how fascinating it is to be a student of yourself. But it's hard. So I'm going to say something. One of my issues, which led to me also wanting to do the column, was surprise, Jody. I talk too much. Now I know you're shocked. Jody, pick your Jody, fan yourself.
Yes.
I talk too much. And as a result of talk, because I'm a performer, so I feel like it's my job to perform. It's my job to make people laugh. It's my job to entertain. The downside to that is I'm not as connected, or had not been, to listening to another person's perspective. That was an admission that I made. And to do what I do now, I have to listen. I have no choice. So I freely admit that. And this was what I chose to do. Now, I'm talking a lot now. I am the guest, so I'm allowed to do that. But what I'm loving about the show is you are doing on this show what I do on my show. You're not making me do all the work.
Yeah. Oh, well, good.
You're coming in and talking too, which is
because we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
We're having a dialogue, right? I think you're right. I think that's missing in the world, because I was a communications major in college. That was my undergrad degree. And I never had a listening course. My degree was in communicating, which I guess at the time was all about telling and persuading and, facilitating small groups and doing things like that. But I only learned listening when I became a hotline volunteer. I was picked up the suicide hotline.
Wow, good for you. Well, okay, let's get real. We're the same age. There was no listening course. There was no emphasis on it. It was never discussed.
Yeah, I think
now we say you only have one mouth and two ears. So you should be listening twice as much as you speak. I still like to entertain. I still like to make people laugh. I still love to tell all my little stories. And as a keynote, that's what I do, because that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be doing the talking then. But I acknowledged a huge deficit, and I attacked it by forcing myself to listen to people, or I could not do the job. And now that's been over 10 years.
Yeah.
And then I take all these phenomenal lessons and all these stories, and I put them on stage.
So tell me more about that, because we haven't talked about that yet. Your keynote performing
as a keynote. I mean, there is a version of my quote unquote show where I sing. If it's like a dinner thing or whatever, there's a version where I actually integrate songs into it that thematically fit into it. I would consider myself to be infotainment.
Okay.
But there's a lesson. But yeah, I'm going to, you heard the Benetar story. Everyone can learn from the Benetar story. They love the Brockovich stories. I go through, depending upon what the group is and what they're trying to achieve. I have 300 mentors. And I go through and I pull the best of those people, and I reposition those to address the needs of that particular audience. So I'm doing I believe it's the International Mentoring Association. So a lot of my focus for developing that program, because they were mentors and ran mentor programs, was focused on the concept of not being a teacher, but being a mentor, and kind of trying to see all of my best stories. How was I mentored? Which is a slight difference from how was I taught.
Sure. Well, in a
who taught
nutshell, what would be that distinction in a nutshell? If that's even possible.
That's difficult. A mentor to me, okay, a gentleman named Chip Conley. Wow, you're good. Who runs I can't think of that. Chip did my show. He promotes professionalism as we age.
Okay.
And I can't think of his organization's name.
I'm looking on your list here.
Chip Conley is brilliant. You still look him up. He's still promoting professionalism of those of us who are older, and professional growth and things like that. So now I have forgotten your question.
I asked how the distinction, if there is one, between mentorship and teaching.
Mentoring is guiding. Teaching is instructing. And he really explained it quite well to me, that when you mentor, you're guiding someone's process. Teaching, we really is more traditional. I'm going to stand here and I'm going to teach you something. But mentoring is really more guiding the process. My friend Amelia Antonetti, who I've worked with on Clubhouse, who I've known for years, who is a genius, Amelia, AMILYA.com. Oh my God, y'all. Amelia, she's a human behaviorist. She's just crazy. But she had said something in one of the shows we did on Clubhouse. And she said that as your kids reach maturity, 18, you need to shift your thinking. She's a human behaviorist, from parenting to mentoring. And I looked at her and I said, where the hell were you 10 years ago? I mean, some of the best advice I've ever heard in my entire life. Had somebody told me that as my terrorist children, 18 to 26 was not fun. As those kids were terrorizing me through their independence, it just told me, just be their mentor. It would have made it so much easier. And they're the coolest people ever now. I mean, my kids are the best. My son produces the podcast. My daughter majored in social work. So she's like one of the first people I call. She's got ridiculous problem solving skills for advice and stuff like that. They're the best. But yeah, that would really have helped a lot. But yeah, I think Mentor's Guide.
Yeah, I like that a lot. You mentioned Clubhouse. I just want to jump there for a second. You probably really love that because it's all audio.
I'm a video person. I'm a stage person. I'm an actor. I've been an actor and a comedian all my life. So I've been on stage all my life. So I'm cool with that. I'm fine with anything. I'm fine doing presentations on Zoom. When we were doing COVID and my speeches were on Zoom, you can still see your front row. You can still see people laughing. You can still see, are they yawning? You can see them better online. So I'm fine with any format. I'm perfectly fine with any format. To get what happens on Clubhouse is you see if people stay.
Sure.
And if all of a sudden, they're leaving, you're like, oops, I'm not doing what I need to do to keep them to stay, to get them to stay. But no, I'm absolutely fine with video, completely fine doing the video stuff. For my podcast, I have made a choice to make it audio only because I'm not asking for your eyes. I'm asking for your ears and your brain.
Yeah, that's what I
made that choice so that people can, in the shower, not really in the shower, I guess it'd be hard, in the bathtub, getting ready in the morning, in the car, while you're cleaning, while you're jogging, while you're exercising. That's where Jones.Show is going to be consumed because I'm not competing with as much for that.
So then the distinction that I'm hearing in that then is they're taking in your information and your interviews. Clubhouse is interactive at the same time and only audio. So I see the distinction. I was thinking you probably prefer that because you've chosen to go audio only, but I see that distinction now.
I love talking to people though. The only frustrating thing about Clubhouse is nobody speaks up.
Right.
I'm like always begging for people to talk. Well, here's the thing. You can't see people in Clubhouse. And I believe a lot of people who don't want to be seen are showing up there because they don't want to be seen. They want to listen but they don't necessarily want to participate. They want to be in the shadow because that's where they're most comfortable. Whatever works for you people, I'm good. But yeah, I mean, I really like participation. I really, really like participation. So I always like a buddy.
Yeah.
I'm not so much, even as an actor, I haven't sung a lot of solos on stage because it's much more interesting to me to sing a duet.
Oh, I love that so much. I do too. It's the connection. I'm learning that I have a mentor, a coach, I guess, that I've been working with, and he gave us a statement, I guess, that we were to fill in at one point. And the statement was, when blank happens, the world will change. And I added, for the better, because the world can definitely change. But when blank happens, the world will change for the better. And for me, my answer to that is, when humans connect, communicate, and collaborate, the world will change for the better.
And listen, and listen, and listen. And try to understand. Yep.
That's the communicate part for me, which is both ways, right? And so when that happens, it happens for me all the time because it's what I'm looking for, that connection.
Can we do this? Can we give a shout out to your coach by name?
For sure. Chris Angel. Chris Angel is
your coach's last name is Angel?
It is. And it's not the Chris Angel mind freak, although he is kind of a mind freak, but yes.
Because we're going to do a little shout out to Baltimore-based Judy Berman. That's mine. Awesome. Baltimore-based Judy Berman. So Chris Angel and Judy Berman, we're shouting out to you because we love you.
Yes.
And Judy Berman is amazing. And you find the right coach and it's better in therapy.
Oh, I've never been in therapy, but I can only imagine.
I have. And the cool thing, the thing I will say that is related to it, they don't do the work for you in therapy. A therapist is there to guide you to doing the work. So if you go into any of these scenarios and think somebody else is going to do the work for you, they're not going to do the work for you as a coach. They're guiding you toward making your own decisions. A therapist is guiding you to understand yourself and make decisions. So there's no shortcut on any of that. I actually I was in therapy after I divorced. And I went through it fast. She said, I've never seen anybody take more responsibility and be more self-aware and be less likely to ask her to tell me what to do. She just helped me sort of process, and help me do that. But I'm willing to do the work, and I'm willing to look at myself. I've always been willing to look at myself. My husband may say that's not true, but
So what's the distinction then between therapy and coaching for you, having had both?
Therapy to me is more feelings-based, and coaching to me is more actions-based.
Okay. That's a great distinction.
Jody, I'm telling you, you're doing, nobody talks to this last half hour has been like, I'm going to have to study my own responses and listen back again, because I kind of like that I gave that answer. I mean, there are emotions in coaching and there are certainly actions in therapy, but having done both, I really do feel it's therapy is more, how do you feel? And coaching is more, what do you do?
That's really great. I've been asked that before, and I've said,
you can steal that and not even give me credit for that.
I will give you.
You don't even have to do that. You can say, well, this is what I always tell people. And
I will say, this is what I learned from this conversation, because I'm really good at.
No, I jokingly say that because you and I do the same thing. I always credit back what I learned from every single person who taught it to me, because there's 300 of them. So yeah.
So good. So good. Well,
it's so great. It's so great to do it. I'm so lucky.
One of my guests. This has been a blast. I know we could talk forever, and I'm betting this is probably the first of many that we will have going forward.
Well, we're going to talk. We'll do this again tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow. Yes.
Yeah. And I'll make sure the dog is awake tomorrow.
I know, right? If people wanted to get a hold of you or wanted to learn more about what you might be able to do for their organization or anything like that, how would be the best way for them to find you?
RandallKennethJones.com. RandallKennethJones.com. Everything's there. My speaker information, my book information, my podcast link is there. The Jones.Show podcast is linked there. I will do a teeny tiny little shout out to the Ruby book again.
Yes, please do. So
my most recent book, Ruby, which is fiction, which is in fact taking self-help into a fiction environment. And let's face it, that's not an invention. There's a whole lot of fiction that's written for self to help people be better. In this case, Ruby was published by Mark Victor Hansen of Chicken Soup for the Soul. So it is feel good.
Quickly then, the distinction between your first book, which was a compilation of other people's stories, which is nonfiction, it's true.
It was interview based. It was nonfiction. It was self-help. It was nonfiction. It was, if the first book really was anecdotal stories from my life, that would set the tone for, like, if I would have a story about, there's a chapter called Jeopardy. So the entire chapter was about fear. So the chapter opened with my story about why I'm terrified of bunny rabbits. This is true. I know you don't know this, but I'm terrified of bunny rabbits. They are rodents and I do not like them. And they're all over my neighborhood. So it's the funny story about me being at work and naked and attacked by a bunny. True story.
Oh my goodness.
We start out with that story, but then subsequent to that, it's every interview, there are profiles I did on people that I interviewed, and they have something to do with the concept of fear or overcoming fear. Now, the difference with Ruby, which is a holiday book, that's the most holiday book and the least holiday book you'll ever read. It's more of a who is she than a whodunit. It's very G-rated. Again, Peggy Post from Emily Post endorsed it. Erin Brockovich endorsed it. Janet Ivanovich endorsed it.
Wow.
I'm crazy. And Mark Victor Hansen published it. It's taking, because all of these people, as you know, they change who we are.
Yeah.
We become different people. We are the way we see ourselves, the way we define ourselves, how we act and interact and react changes because of these people that you and I get to meet. So many of the characteristics of the characters in Ruby were inspired by the people I've met who have changed my belief system. And every single main character in Ruby is over 55 years old. And I'm really proud of that. And I'm really proud that my 20-something and 30-something readers love it more than anyone else. I was on TV and somebody said, why do you, Greg said, he's the anchor, said, why do you think that is? I said, because I didn't write old people. I wrote people. Just wrote people. They happen to be older. And with that comes a different mindset. And I understand that person because I'm 60. But I'm really proud of that. I think it's very special. I'm very, very proud of it. I'm very lucky I got a chance to do it.
Oh, that's so good. Well, I'm going to definitely put all of this in the show notes so that people can find you and find either of your books. What about the memoir that didn't get published?
What's interesting about that? Okay, there's a story. You're really good, Jody. You're, oh man, because there's another story here. I wrote the book. I called it Attack Bunnies. Now you have a
yeah. Okay, I see.
Yeah. Because there's an Attack Bunny story.
Yeah.
What really happened with that is I wrote it. I gave it to my 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Patsy Watt from Rocheport, Missouri.
Wow.
Who has been my support system my entire life. We were her first class. She's only 14 years older than me.
Wow.
Patsy Watt reads my book. She calls me up and says, I don't want to hurt your feelings. I want you to be successful, but it's not good enough.
Wow.
And please, no one judge her because she said what I needed to hear and she told me the truth. Nobody else did. It wasn't good enough. There was not enough. It was a brain dump. There was no point of view. There was no purpose to it. There was no clear objective for the reader, what they're going to learn. So, and I knew she was right. She was the only person who would tell me the truth. I put it aside, and the very best of that book went into the second book.
Got it.
Which is Show Me, which is where the bunny story then appeared because it now had a purpose. And so, yeah, it was, so the best of that book did appear.
That's so great.
And Brent, yeah.
Randy Jones, this is a pleasure. And I'm going to thank Brad profusely for connecting.
Who?
I know, right?
Oh, Brad Salasi? Salazis. I should say Salas. It's really a cool, as a guy named Jones, let's appreciate anything that's not Jones.
Exactly. Well, I look forward to the next time we get to meet and hopefully in person at some point.
That'd be lovely.
Thank you, my friend, my new friend.
Thank you, my new friend.
I appreciate you. And thanks everybody for listening. As always, get real. Talk to you again.
Get real.